Hello, it appears we have begun. I don't know how quickly I'll hear from you, but if you can all let me know that you can hear this well and that you've got your popcorn nice and warm, you're there on your couch, maybe your slippers are on, dog by your side, or cat. I'm more of a dog guy, but that's all right. I'm Congilio, and I am your host for the next hour for TrueFire's live guitar streaming lesson, sort of a cavalcade of all things guitar and blues and improvisation and what we're going to talk about. So this is certainly a first for me. I've played on stage in front of thousands of people, but never have I broadcast to a little tiny camera that you can't see. So this ought to be fun. And there's already a bunch of people chiming in, so they said it sounds okay, video's good, coming through loud and clear, and somebody is psyched, and somebody also wants to rock. So let's rock, right? Let's talk a little bit about what I'm going to do for the next 30 minutes or so. And sorry if you hear some loud noise and that sort of thing. It's Nashville, it's about 80 degrees, and I have yet to turn the air conditioning on, so bear with me. Plus I wanted to be quiet. What we're going to talk about over the next 30 minutes is my approach to improvising and the approach that I can't usually teach through a TrueFire course. Not that I can't, but oftentimes there's more of a personal aspect that I would need to kind of sit down and talk to somebody in a format like this, as opposed to just saying, hey, put your hands here and do this. But I incorporated a little bit of that into what I'm going to do. And we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about basic stuff that probably many of us know with regard to playing pentatonic scales and soloing. But we're going to do one of my favorite things, which is to do it on the one-string concept or the multi-string concept in a way that I call maybe linearly, as opposed to in the box sort of fashion. Now, why is this cool? Well, it's cool because it's got instant licks, okay? And you don't have to learn a bunch of licks. You can kind of build them off what you've already learned with the scales. But we're also going to use rhythm as the engine for that. And that will be sort of phase 2 of our 30-minute run here. So the first thing we're going to do is something that I just wrote up real quickly, very simple, called the one-string blues. And the concept is we're going to be in the key of A, playing over a 12-bar blues. I'm going to play this for you real quickly. And hopefully you can hear that backing track. Just the blues in A. So can we hear that? Okay, so I'm going to play a solo on one string that I wrote out. Will be available to you with a PDF through TrueFire. So here comes the turnaround. Here we go. One string. So I just played that on one string. Second string, what I did was I incorporated patterns 1, 2, 3, and 4 of the A minor pentatonic scale. Looks like a lot of people dig BSG. That's cool. This is my new favorite guitar. More on that later. But this is really, really important. And I'm going to I want to hit some questions in a bit, but I'm going to sort of ignore the chat for a minute, so don't take it personally, because this is some really cool stuff that I hear. I feel like I need to address this because I hear from so many students around the world through TrueFire. Thank you, TrueFire, for allowing me to do this on such a large scale and reach some folks, because it's the same old thing. I get students that can play all over the guitar but have trouble with this sort of linear phrasing. And the reason I do this this way is because, like I said, the licks and the melody sort of come out on their own. So what I did there was I just played the second string, and you can keep going up the neck, and I'm connecting all 5 pentatonic patterns, as opposed to going so on and so forth. This is kind of when you see the great players that we admire play over. When they're doing that kind of stuff, we're like, wow, how are they navigating it so well? Well, the roadmap is clear to them, and that's what we want to start to do as well. And let me address my friend Jeff Sheets here. There he is. He says we look and sound awesome. I mean, really? Of course we do. I've learned everything from TrueFire. I got the right camera, I got the right gear, you know. So thanks, Jeff. So yeah, but this one string concept is what's so important. Now, what's really cool is you might not play a solo like that, but it's a way to practice, and it's a way to kind of get the vocabulary happening. So let's kick the track on again, and let's play using maybe strings 1 and 2. Now what happens is we do what I like to call the string set approach. This is really what I like to focus on. So we're going to take strings 1 and 2, and then maybe we'll move to 2 and 3, maybe 3 and 4, 4 and 5, 5 and 6. And this is sort of what's going to happen as you learn to progress on the guitar this way. So I'll just play. Everybody wants to hear playing. Nobody wants to hear me. Yeah. So it's blues in A. I'm using my Digicheck Trio here. This is a really cool pedal. So we're here on the 4 chord. I'll start on that 2nd string. Maybe add the 1st string. That was my blind making that noise. 2nd string still. Getting a lot of mileage out of it. 1st string. Maybe go to the 3rd string. 3rd. 2nd. 2nd and 3rd. 4th. Maybe do something a little major on the 3rd and 4th. 5th. 3rd, 2nd, 3rd, 4th. So all those inside strings now. Okay, so maybe let it loop around, and we'll start another pass on the 6th and 5th string. 5th and 6th strings. Back up to the 4th and 3rd. That was a little extra for your price of admission. 1st and 2nd. 2nd and 3rd. 1st. All right. So hopefully you're seeing the concept a little bit there, and I'm giving you the super abridged Reader's Digest version of all that stuff, but it's going to dovetail nicely in what's coming up. So let me break it down and slow it down a little bit for you here. So when I teach pentatonic playing, and so many people have their own approach, of course we have our tried and true scales, but what I would like to do is get you to practice these over a track like so. Just let it play, and if you're new, if you're a beginner, if you're a late beginner, early intermediate, maybe you can just play a little bit. I see a lot of people going that kind of stuff. What I want you to do when you practice is play the scale like so. And then look what happens. It's almost like you created a solo right there. There it is. Now, does this mean you have to throw away all your TrueFire courses? No, you don't have to do that. But what happens with a lot of students is that you find that maybe you've hit a plateau or a wall because you don't know how to connect those things. So let's say you've got that concept at least in your brain and you get it. But you say, hey, what do I do with all this cool stuff I learned? Like, and you want to do that, you know. Okay, let's address that. We're gonna play single strings, and then what's great about that is it kind of like, the lick is like the main chorus. So if we're playing the single string idea, let's put that lick in there. Whatever. Let's put singles notes again, single string. Stevie Ray Vaughan. Maybe B.B. King. So there's your licks, back to single string. All right. So that's kind of mixing the two ideas together, because licks are like, to me, you know, it's the things we have in the conversation. Did you ever really, how do I say this? If you know a lot about a topic, maybe your favorite football team or something like that, you can really go on and on about it, you know, and you have a lot of licks prepared because you know that so-and-so has a good offensive line, so-and-so has a great running back. Well, that's your lick. That's prepared to come firing out. But as you're talking, you're like, I don't know, you know, I have to consider the defense next year. I'm not sure. But so-and-so is a great defensive back that had this many stats. Boom, there's your info coming right at you. I know that's kind of weird. I'm a big analogy guy, and sometimes they barely make sense. But the idea is that you want to hit them with that lick after you've said a couple sentences that reel them in. That's one way to approach it. Because oftentimes when you just string licks together, you get the complaint that I get often from students is that I feel like I'm just stringing a bunch of licks together. So there you have it. So we're somewhere about pretty close to the halfway point. It's looking like people are digging the guitar and everything sounds good. Awesome. So a variation of that first solo I played will be available to you in PDF form on the TrueFire site. It's really, really basic. But the other thing I wanted to do, which is really cool, that sort of is you're gonna get a lot of mileage out of it if you do it in a way. How can I say it? I don't want to. I tried to avoid the word phrasing, but I won't, because everybody's like, talk about phrasing. What does that mean? Well, things to different people and different players. So we're going to take that one string concept and we're going to marry it with some phrasing. And to me, phrasing when you're improvising is really not much more than different rhythms. If the notes are the words, the phrasing is the rhythm or the cadence of it. That's like how we speak. You can hear. Did you ever hear someone try to use a phrase from another language and their cadence is kind of weird, so it almost sounds humorous? Well, that's kind of what happens sometimes with our phrasing if we try to play a phrase that we don't really have under our fingers quite yet. So we might need to simplify the phrase. And I'm a big fan of simplifying the phrases. So we're gonna, and another thing I want to mention about phrasing is when you're practicing, it's cool to do it over a 12-bar form or something like that. But what I'm gonna do is play a one-bar, not one bar, a one-chord vamp. Because oftentimes we're playing maybe a funky song or some kind of jam tune where it's between 1 and 2 chords. And our normal sort of licks that we play over a 12-bar that fit really well might not sound as good over that. And that's where phrasing really happens. Some of my favorite phrasers are jazz players and fusion players like John Scofield and Scott Henderson. Those players in particular would get a lot out of a few notes because of how they phrase. And this example that I have for you, I think will show you that. I call it the one phrase solo. It will also be available for download. I'm going to play it as close to the, the written work as I have. And the idea is all the notes are going to come off of the rhythmic motif 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if the groove is here, we're in the key of E, just an E7 chord is what's playing behind you. So it would go 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2. So when I play, okay, so that's that little 8-bar solo there. And what I did most often was I would do 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then a bar of rests, and then repeat and repeat and repeat. I'm sticking strictly to E minor pentatonic here. And you can do two things. You could take the single string approach. You could take a lick approach. You could take the single string approach and kind of move it linearly, or sort of vertically and horizontally, like in a scale, if you will. Like, you could do that. But I'm going to kind of improvise a little bit over this, and then I'm going to talk to you about what I did. So here we go. Key of E. 1, 2, 1, 2. Same idea. Same rhythm. I'll use it over and over. Let's do single string. Let's try to play linearly now. Let me wait for the groove to come around. 1, 2, 1, 2. Now I'll just kind of play whatever. Yeah, I can go anything you want. Two, 3, and 4, and 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1, 2. So you can put that together. You don't need to put the rest in there. And you're like, okay, well, that's cool. It might be a little boring over and over and over and over again. Okay. Make it a motif. We talk about motifs a lot. It's sort of something that you can just jump off of. You can do it for 8 bars or so. For 8 bars, it wasn't boring. It might be boring for 32 or 64. But it's an idea. So the next question comes, how do I come up with these rhythms? Maybe you're a new improviser. Maybe the whole concept is a little tricky to you. Well, let me let you in on my secret and how I do it. This is why I'm never sort of longing for ideas. First of all, these concepts, in addition to coming from people like John Schofield and Scott Henderson and people that I've checked out over the years, there was a really great, I moved to Nashville from the Pittsburgh area, and there's a couple really great players up there, a few of them. The first instructors that taught me about this kind of stuff was a guy named Anthony Janplin Sr., or Tony Janplin Sr. We would have 3-hour guitar lessons where we talked a lot. And it was about this kind of stuff, because he said he could play the 24-hour blues. And what the 24-hour blues was is that he would never repeat himself, because these concepts were always ruminating throughout his playing in his brain. So you can see that I really didn't, I repeated myself, yes, but it wasn't like I just played all the time, because that might get old. Now, it didn't get old for Stevie Ray Vaughan, so don't give me that. I get it. But that's a different concept. We're trying to build upon what you've already known. So before you go there, don't talk about my hero, because I know about it. Anyway, so my point is that Tony Janplin was a real big influence with that stuff. Another two different guitar players that I studied with, who also studied with that guy, Mark Lucas and Steve Delich. Both are published, both have great stuff going on, amazing improvisers, and I owe a lot to them. And they gave me a lot of these concepts. And I feel that sort of my gift is to sort of break it down even more simply for folks that are maybe in the early stages of their improvising life. So with that being said, how do we come up with a rhythm? Well, just kind of like what I did, I know Jeff Sheets talked about taking a rhythmic idea or a phrasing idea and then moving the idea an eighth note or a quarter note or that sort of thing. But what I do is I listen for the vocal all the time, because 90% of my life these days, in my guitar playing life, I'm playing with singers, or I am the singer, or I'm a sideman, or I'm in the studio session where there's a situation where somebody says, okay, we got to put a solo now. And I have definitely fallen into the trap where maybe the song is, let's say it's one of these songs, and they say, are you ready? Go ahead. And I go, yeah, it's flashy, but it doesn't have anything that I can sink my teeth into. So maybe the singer played, hey, baby, give me something to wear. Corey, play the solo. And I go, and you pick your spots of where you can kind of throw your, your flashier stuff in there. But if they were saying, hey, baby, give me something to eat, if that was the line in the song, I'm going to go with that. You can think about it, pick your favorite song. Maybe it's, if you're doing The Thrill Is Gone, we'll turn the bass down in the loop, and we'll just play, maybe you're in like a B minor pentatonic, or B minor 9. It's kind of fast for Thrill Is Gone, but maybe it's a minor vamp. So you can sort of hear that I'm playing off the thrill is gone away, that sort of idea. And that's what the great players that we like really did early on, because they might not have had the physical, the chops or that sort of thing to really go nuts. And honestly, like the best guitar solos that I think I'm playing these days are the ones that I could sing back. I used to never even think about composing solos until I became more of a recording and guitar player. And then I started listening to bluegrass musicians also, and whereas in jazz music, they would never they would really never even think about composing a solo because the melody was composed. So they play that and you improvise. But in bluegrass, there'll be worked out compositions. And I started to see how to marry those two. I was doing some touring in the winter, and there was a great guitar player that I got his name's John Osborne. He's in this band called Brothers Osborne that are incredible down here. And they've won some awards recently. John is amazing. And John would bookend his solos. He would have long solo breaks in the live show. And he would bookend them by writing a little piece in the beginning and a little piece at the end. And the piece at the end was the nod to the band to get, okay, here we go. And then they're back into the song. And it was brilliant. And I'm like, wow, there's nothing wrong with that because it really tells a complete story. Because, you might tell a joke or you might tell a story and you know the beginning and the punchline, but you might mess up the middle a little bit or make it different every time. And that's kind of what you can do. So I guess the whole point of that story is that there's no harm in composing some stuff to play, especially if maybe you're in a situation where you're doing some shorter solos, maybe 8-bar solos, or you're an original rock project or that kind of thing. So I play a lot of different music and I'm in a lot of different situations. So I feel that I can sort of impart some things from what I see, whether it be completely improvised or totally composed. I see the value in all of it. So let me get a drink here. Let me wet the old whistle. So hopefully you got something out of those 2 lessons. I have a handful of questions that some folks kindly added already to the TrueFire page. And there was a couple really great. First of all, I want to address Craig Miller. He said he's interested in understanding more about how the tempo and rhythm is considered during improvisation, so that the solo sounds more like a part of the song than an add-on that was thrown in. And Craig, that's kind of the second half of this where I was going today. So hopefully that conversation helped answer your question there. Again, nothing wrong with composing. Rhythm is extremely important, and listening to the melody of the singer is also very important. I'm going to try to address the quick ones because there's a ton of stuff coming in here that I'll never get to. Sorry, guys and gals. Let's see here. I like this one about what's the best and easiest way to approach chord tone soloing. That's from Louis Ferrer-Newman, or Luis, forgive me. That will pair up with a question from, let's see, where's the other guy out here? Miles Holtby, who wants to know about both licks and chords from jazz blues and a standard 1-4-5 blues to emphasize the changes and add a harmonic interest. A huge, also thanks for all your excellent lessons. You are most welcome, Miles. So chord tone soloing and let's see here. Okay. Yeah, thanks, Brad. I see those questions coming in. I got to hold on those. That's coming up next. But we're going to talk about chord tone and a little bit of the jazz blues thing. It's been a while since I've kind of taught this stuff, so bear with me. But I am a chord center, chord tone guy, key center, whatever you want to say. And that means that a large part of my playing is based out of arpeggios. And I try to look at another one of these great guitarists I studied with in Pittsburgh told me that he likes to see the instrument like the bottom 3 strings are the left hand of the piano and the right hand, and the top 3 strings are the right hand of the piano, which I thought was really cool because if you were to take a C, maybe C major 7, and you have a C major 7 arpeggio, you'll hear me do that kind of stuff a lot, where maybe I'll start with that sort of idea if it's a so I've learned my arpeggios in such a way that I can kind of I feel like I can play them in this same linear fashion that I was playing the pentatonics in. So for instance, and people always say, you sound so jazzy when you do that. Well, it's because I'm not going, you know, I'm setting up something. Let's see, I'm not 100% great with using this trio thing yet, but we could do that. I have to put it on the floor. This could be kind of fun, getting to see a live experiment in the flesh. So what you're supposed to do is play a chord. Okay, so then let's try a loop. So that's a C. Did it pretty quickly. I'm pretty impressed. So here's my approach to chord tone. I want C major 7. Okay. C major 7 arpeggio. And I just look for those. And look for the notes C, E, G, C, E, G, and B. I forgot the B there. So I might try to play those in this linear fashion. Rhythm, single line. Whoops. So if I want to play a little more interesting, maybe a little more lines. I might play a major pentatonic idea. So, yes, I use the key center approach a lot, so I really jump around and use the arpeggios kind of almost exclusively, in addition to any kind of scale I can sort of sneak in there. When it comes to the blues thing, though, let's go back to my blues pattern. How can I spice that up with some more jazz blues thing? Okay, here is, and then we're going to also do, we're going to target, let's see, there's a couple major pentatonic questions. Let's get to those. Jack Axelson, you work at Princeton University. Awesome. My home state of New Jersey. Major and minor seems to work in some songs. You're trying to figure out the context. I might not get to that exactly, but we will try. Major and minor pentatonics for key of A example for blues, and that is coming from Chris Sanchi. We'll try to hit both of those if we can. All right, so if I play the blues thing here, first thing we're going to do is, if we have we're in the key of A, so it's A, 7, D7, E7, there are chords. We're going to play major pentatonic over the 1 chord. So we're going to play this sort of, what I like, you know, which you can also think of as F sharp minor pentatonic. And since we're putting it out there to the world, I have no secrets. I have no qualms about saying, whatever works for you to understand something, do it. If you know, we've seen now people play their guitar with their toes. But if something makes sense and you got to do it with your toes, and do it if it sounds good. I don't care. Whatever you think of. If you say, well, that's dot fret number 2, that sounds this way. That's cool. Figure out that it's F sharp eventually. But make music first, and then rely on folks like myself and the TrueFire cast to kind of pull you through the tour of lead guitar playing and so forth to really hammer it down. But make yourself happy. Get the sounds that you want. So over the 1 chord, we're going to use major pentatonic, A, and there's your root note there. Your minor relative would be right there, your F sharp minor. So think about that as you play those patterns. So we're going to stick to that area, and then we're going to take its minor counterpart, A minor pentatonic, when it goes to the 4 chord. Okay, and it's really important to think about this because you're gonna be playing a lot of stuff. If you're a blues fanatic, you know, a lot of like, or maybe like, and when you're playing those 9th chord sounds and 13s and stuff, it sounds really good to play major pentatonic. I didn't get to watch the whole thing, but I know that Jeff McErlane touched a lot on this concept. I don't know to what degree, but shout out to J Mac. Go look at his lesson from last week. Okay, so without further ado, here's the 1 chord. Minor, easy. Now maybe I want to go here's your major, minor, minor, major, minor, let's go major, minor. Okay, so that's one way to kind of put that in there quickly. Now, the next kind of piece to do the jazz blues thing, well, there's a few things. Man, you guys are getting a lot of information here. Stop me if it's too much. Because I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to get to some of these other questions that are rolling in, because there's literally, seems like there's thousands of them. And then we'll have some fun within the next 20 minutes here. There's some really cool studies I've done in the past where you play arpeggios. Like a dominant 7 arpeggio to maybe the D7 arpeggio. And then to the A7 arpeggio again. Okay, so that would cover the first 2 chords. Let me show you that. You take half of it. You can do the D7. E7, A7. So these are all arpeggios over the chords that are going by. So we'll do this again. Here's your A7. Now watch. That's kind of one of my moves that I like to do. And what happens is, this is kind of getting, you're one of the few internet guitar teachers who are hardly ever annoying. Thanks, Mike. I didn't know I was ever going to be an internet guitar teacher. It just kind of happened. Blame TrueFire. They plucked me out of where I was. Back on track about the 7th chord blues stuff. So again, we have the A7, the D7. Now what happens is there's a bar right before, it would be bar 4 when it goes to the 4 chord. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4 here. There is a common progression in jazz music called the 2-5-1. And what happens is it's like sort of imposed going to the 4 chord, which is D7. So it would be a E minor 7, A7. There goes Max walking by. Say hi to Max. E minor 7, A7, then the D7. And what's very common is you'll hear players kind of play. And that really weaves nicely through the chords. So let me show you the 2-5-1 arpeggio thing in the blues. Arpeggio, here it comes. We could try it another spot. Hear it as it went by. So what's also cool is that you don't need to do all of that. You can just play notes in the arpeggio, so when you get good at seeing them, you can just imply them. Major. Okay, so I did it there, and I didn't go. It just makes the ear kind of twist a little bit. And the great thing about Jeff Mackerlane, I showed him that you might have in your dreams. So what's cool is that you're just hinting at those chord changes going by. One of my favorite guitar players, who you're probably not going to think I would say this, does this as good as anyone, is Willie Nelson. So if you listen to records like the Stardust record, he's playing a lot of jazz standard songs. His solos are always super melodic because he's always playing around the melody, and those melody notes 9 out of 10 times are in the arpeggio. So somebody else that I really like is Willie Nelson for sure. Sounds like we got some vandals outside my apartment. Okay. Okay, so I'm going to go back through some of these chat questions here, as long as the TrueFire faithful would stop talking to each other. All right, Miles, glad you like that. Thank you, sir. Might have some more. Particular phase and soloing, which note to fall in with changes. Let's see, that kind of works with the arpeggio thing. Gary says, I never do it, but aren't you supposed to try to sing or hum with your voice when you play every note? I used to do that all the time, and I actually think I need to get back to it because there's no instrument like the human voice to create melody, because it has to come here, then it has to come to your hands and do it. So if I'm doing that, now, I don't know if you've ever heard the jazz musician, the jazz pianist, almost murdering him while he's doing it. It's pretty funny. Anyway, so if I was to sing a little bit, I'm not going to scat. I'm just going to kind of play some ideas. Started that solo a little bit differently than I've done the other ones, because you have to breathe when you're singing, and that's what's great about trying to hum what you're playing. Let's see. Oh, I love this one from Henry Miller. My question is how to interact with other guitarists to complement and contrast their sound, yet be distinct in your own tone, rhythm, and harmonic sense. I really, really like that one because I so often have to do that, particularly whether I'm playing dual guitars on a session or on a gig. A lot of the rock and country things that I find myself in, there's often more than one guitar player. I've kind of trained myself to cover the ground of 2 guitar players, so I think that actually helps me back off when necessary. So let's see who asked me that. Henry. So Henry, one of the things I learned to do immediately is, let's say somebody is playing something like this, like kind of a simple rock thing. Maybe they're going. So maybe they're playing C to F. I'm going to go the complete opposite of where they are. I'll never put my hands here where a C is. I'll maybe go to this C. And I probably won't play the same rhythm as them. I'll probably play something more like. Maybe I'll play this, sorry, here it is. So I'll pick some different inversions. I'll pick a different rhythm. I think Massimo Marini's courses might talk a little bit about that, because when you're playing pop and rock stuff, particularly when you're doing any recording, it's great to have that interplay happening between those 2 guitars. I'm a big fan of the capo. I don't have one handy, or do I? I use capos all the time. Not so much in my blues playing, but in my rock and country stuff, I almost always do. I love the way it sounds. I love Mike Campbell with Tom Petty. I love Tom Petty. So I love playing, rock and roll and just being able to get the jangle. And I love being able to use a simple chord like that somewhere else on the guitar. That's why I capo often. As far as tone and approach and that sort of thing, what I like to think about is I try not to have the same guitar as the guy. I used to play in this weekly blues band here in Nashville, and I would check in almost. Sorry, the back's getting a little tired. I would check in almost weekly with the other guitar players. Say, what are you bringing? Are you bringing a 335? Okay, I'll bring Strat. Okay, or I would bring this, or I would bring my Jazzmaster, which is really cool. My Jazzmaster style guitar. I just wanted something sonically that was going to be a departure. I try to think about the listener too, and I don't want them to get bored. Do the same thing all the time. That's why I often use a handful of effects too, in a real sort of in a real musical way. At least I think I'm doing it musically. Let's go backwards a little bit. Let's probably a lot more. Let's see. Corey Benson, somebody said. Nice. I love George Benson, big fan. Learned a lot from him. There's probably going to be a lot of comments about my mustache, which I'm fine with. The Allman Brothers could jam for a long time. Okay, one of the things I want to talk about too is that I got a question from my friend Gerardo, who wants to talk about hybrid picking chops. If you've noticed recently, I put out a course through TrueFire called 30 Modern Country Licks, you must know. And it was a way to kind of not only shed light on what's happening in today's country music, and before you lob bombs about how you don't like it, I will tell you, as I say in that course, it's loaded with some of the best guitar players anywhere, I guarantee you. You want the best guys creating music all the time, whether it's music you like or you don't like. There was probably a lot of music in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s that you didn't like too, and the best musicians were playing those. We have to know how to be good on our feet quickly in the studio and pull from so many different influences. And some of these great players down here really, I mean, just have it together and can do it at a moment's notice. I mean, to be able to come up with a memorable solo in 8 bars in 2 takes is no easy task. And I'm in some amazing company with people that can do it down here. And so I got into that sort of thing because I started the hybrid picking technique, if you will. Way back early on, I was checking out some country guitar players, Albert Lee, Brent Mason, Ray Flack, Dan Gatton, and they all used their fingers and even used acrylic fingernails like I'm using. How about that camera working out so well, right? And you know, I would play the classic kind of, you know, country licks like that, which I can't believe I even played that one that well. I'm terrible at it. But I really love that sort of sound. And then when I saw Brent Mason play, you know, like he would play like these kind of jazzier. It was like chicken picking with the neck pickup on. And then that whole Benson thing, you know. In my pick. And then, so I figured out how to practice that. And the way I practiced it was pentatonic scales, for instance, and that's all with a pick right there. And then I would start to do it one, like pick, finger, pick, finger. So I'd go. Okay. And then what's really cool is not so long ago, I found these picks that are made right here in Nashville called V-picks, and they're made from acrylic material. So are my nails. So what's awesome is that sounds the same. And what I've done now is really sort of work that into my playing, where I can play that track, play the blues, then I'll play and use the picking. I'm being an idiot on purpose. I would never play that. But I just wanted to show you how the finger thing has really helped with regard to my speed and dexterity. I'll never forget, I was in a music store that I eventually worked at in New Jersey, and I knew how to play this. On the Strat that I wanted to buy, and I went down, pick, down, finger. So the only thing I picked with the pick was the first note. So, and of course I thought I invented it, which was wrong. And then I got a video from the 80s and I saw Albert Lee doing it, and I was like, okay, so I didn't invent it, but at least I can use this to my advantage. And the next question will be, well, what do you do when you don't have the nails on? Well, I do the nails thing quite often, but I am able to play without them. I don't prefer it. I like, if I'm going to play a show or do a studio gig or something like that, I like to have my nails all ready to go. I go to Fancy Nail right down the street and shout out for $8. I get 2 acrylics put on, and for about 20 minutes you sit there and you get some weird looks. But it's Nashville. A lot of people do it. So I got a few minutes left here, coming up on the top of the hour. And we're going to look at a couple more questions. Let's see. Thanks for picking up the country course, Jerry Blue. Awesome guitar. I have great taste to tune mine to 430. I've never tuned my guitar below 440. that I know of. Unless is 432 a half step down? I have no idea. Let's see. Does Mike Zito play like that? Apparently he does. What gauge strings do I use? Let's talk a little bit about gear and that sort of stuff if you want to chime in with some gear questions. I'm using, I had this question the other day with a student. He asked about string gauge because he was trying to do some country stuff and was a little discouraged. And so for me, I have come to the place where I used to do, well, I'm 10s on everything, or I'm whatever on it. The guitar really kind of dictates it for me now. Some guitars just feel right with a certain string gauge. When it's a Gibson in a shorter scale, for me right now, I'm using anywhere between 10s and 11s. But I just found, I don't know where they're at, I just ordered some stuff from Dario Strings, my favorite electric strings ever. Thank you, Dario, for hooking me up. I just ordered some 10.5s. And I'm excited to put those on because you can lay into them, and they bend enough that they still feel like 10s, but they have a little bit of a thickness to them, so the tone is still rich. But it's weird because this guitar has a wraparound tailpiece, and the 10s and 10.5s feel good on it, but 11s feel better on my 335. I think it's because of the Bigsby, and it feels a little spongier. When it comes to Fender scale instruments, I'm usually using 10s on that too. And I've gone down to like 9 through 46, like a light top, heavy bottom on some tellies. If I'm really doing some like traditional stuff, like that lighter string that really works. And sometimes if you go to a 1942 set, it really sounds great for that kind of stuff. So that's strings. D'Addario generally on my electric guitars, 10s and 11s for the most part. Okay. Let's see. Wow, no other gear questions. I'm a little surprised. But a lot of people have asked about this guitar. This guitar is, I'm like the 4th or 5th owner of it. It is a 1964 SG. It was a junior that was converted to a dual humbucking guitar. Kept the wraparound tailpiece. That's what it originally had. It was refinished Pelham Blue by a very reputable guitar maker. It's been owned by a number of different great guitar players. It doesn't have a lot of value on the market because of how much it's been modified, but it's vibey as all get out. So I really enjoy it. Lately, I've been playing mostly Gibson type instruments. I work with a company here in Nashville, a great guitar builder called Mario Martin Guitars, and Mario makes of classic designs and some new stuff. They're wonderful people, and they'll make just about anything you want in their scheme of things. As many of you know, I do work with the Martin Guitar Company, a different Martin, the 184-year-old Martin Company to be exact. I grew up 20 minutes from the Martin factory, which was kind of cool that I get to kind of come back and work for that company. And what you should do is, if you want to know any more about that kind of stuff, feel free to drop me a message through my website, CoreyCongilio.com. I'm very active on all that stuff. I'm writing and recording new music currently. I'm going to be doing more of that stuff. You're going to be seeing more of that, hopefully. It's been really fun to kind of finally figure out what my style of music is. I'm enamored with great songwriting, but I also want to have great guitar playing in there as well. So hopefully you'll see more of that be married as I progress in my musical sort of endeavors. Everybody that came out, there's just a slew of people watching, which is awesome. I hope you got something out of it. Again, find me on the social networks, find me on my website. My record is available on all of the downloadable places. It's called Well Suited. It's 5 songs, a little bit of a sample of everything that I like to do musically and guitar-wise. Thanks to Jeff, Brad, and all the folks at TrueFire. Zach is as well. Everybody that makes this possible. This is really something cool. TrueFire is the best in the business. Where else can you get this kind of stuff for free for an hour? And not to mention the litany of great stuff available on TrueFire.com. Check out my newest courses, my Blues Fake Book course, where I teach you 30 my take on 30 classic blues songs, as well as the 30 modern country licks, and the other 8 courses that are available for sale either through my website or TrueFire.com. All right, so that's it. If there's any one last interesting question, nope, none. Okay, that's it. Wait, keep up the good work. I'm the man. Thanks, Tim. We'll end with that. Thanks, great session. We'll see you guys hopefully some other time on a live lesson, and tune in next time for Rob, and as they're going to be teaching as well. All right, I'm signing off. Congilio. It was fun. See you next time.